Number one, I mean, most people say Viola, and it's really Viola, like the musical instrument. Friends have been down to the Miami Museum to see Bill's piece when it was being shown there. And I could tell when they walked out that they were a little confused. And I think sometimes they're looking for someone to explain what they've seen. And you really can't do that. So what I say to them, I said, Bill's kind of art combines video and audio and computers, and it comes from his brain, what he sees, and there is no real explanation for it. You have to say yourself what you've seen. And so that's the way I try to explain it to my friends. I'm not sure whether I've convinced them. I'm not sure whether I convinced them.
Bill, I understand you've volunteered to be the spokesman and let us know what the group is into.
Yeah, well, basically, at present, we've been involved in wiring up the campus for a cable television network, which will also include a 1-inch color studio. The studio will be entirely installed and run and operated by the students. There won't be any interference from any outside sources at all, so we'll be able to just about decide what we want to see and what we like to show. This is Jack Nelson. That's my college professor. I came to him because I had been failing advertising in university. It was a dismal disaster. My parents, being good parents, when I went to art school, Syracuse University, they said you have to study advertising because that's the only way artists make a living. So I spent a year and a half, horrible year and a half, failing miserably because I was like late for class most of the time. And finally my advertising teacher said, why don't you go over and see Jack Nelson? He said he's just created this new department called Experimental Studios. So I go down this dark hallway and I hear this flurry of activity in this room, and this guy comes running out of the room going, I'm projecting vegetation on the moon, I'm projecting vegetation on the moon, and the other students go, yeah, and so I went into the room and there was toilet paper all over the floor. He took the center cardboard tubes of rolls of toilet paper and taped them onto the front of a 8mm movie projector so he could narrow down the image to this little round kind of shape, and he had a paper mache 3-foot across model of the moon hanging from the ceiling, and he was projecting a time-lapse film. It was actually a speeded up film of grass blowing in the wind really violently in the seashore, and he was projecting that on this paper mache moon. And I said, excuse me, I'm looking for Professor Nelson. And he goes, that's me. And I thought, I'm home.
At Syracuse University, Bill Viola also studied electrical engineering, literature, mysticism, and electronic music.
Over the years when we've been working together, I have taken a lot of photographs of where we are and of course of Bill. Bill's process has to do with searching for something that is out there in landscape. It's the world that we live in, basically. One of his themes throughout his work in general has been the individual in the world. For him, it's totally intuitive, collecting the images almost as if you were collecting a vocabulary for that work or writing a poem. And it took a long, long time for him to be able to relax enough and to just feel that I was part of the furniture, or part of the landscape, if you want, for him to be comfortable with having somebody else there. And for me, there were some wonderful things about it, and there were some things that weren't so wonderful. You know, like, what is this guy doing? And when is he going to tell me what we're doing here? And are we going to turn the camera on? And can I please have a set of headphones so that I can actually...
I have a number of different cameras and different things I use in my work. And I'll show them some of them to you. This is a fireproof housing for a camera. It is relatively fireproof. You can't keep the camera in the flames for too long. This is an early underwater housing that we made. It's a very simple kind of thing. Your camera goes inside here, and it has this high-tech lens cap on the top of a thermos jar. And this, you know, allows me to move the camera underwater with a fair amount of flexibility. This was designed for shooting in moonlight, and it has an image intensifier in it. And with it, I was able to shoot a lot of the images from the passing, which were recordings of the desert landscape in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, just with the light of the moon. When I was 6 years old, my family was on summer holiday, and we were staying in this small lake in the mountains. My cousin and I went out to this raft, which they had that you could dive off of. My uncle was there, and we had these inner tubes on around our waists, and my cousin Tom jumped first, and he swam away, and then I jumped, and I forgot to hold on to the inner tube, and I sunk right to the bottom. I saw the most beautiful world I'd ever seen in my life. Shafts of light coming through, blue-green light, plants under there kind of moving in the currents. There were small fish, and it was like paradise. It was absolutely beautiful. And I just watched it with absolutely no fear, and I think one of the most peaceful moments of my whole life. And then this huge hand came down and grabbed me by the stomach and pulled me up. And I broke the surface, and I didn't even know where I was. I didn't think I was drowning. I knew I didn't want to come up. I think all of the work I've been doing is about that moment of change where you're looking at one thing, you're experiencing one thing, and something just turns over and it becomes something else. But at the same time, it's you that changes. The thing remains the same. That's really important.